So I always love Monday mornings because generally I go to sleep early on Sundays, get up early Monday morning, get some coffee, and do a couple hours of reading. And I try to make my way through a number of different books, including various things that I'm researching for upcoming messages. Got my daily Bible. I am slowly working my way through a book entitled The Bondage Breaker by Neil Anderson. And I want to read for you a quote on page 112 and 113 because it really stood out to me. We're kind of in this, I'm going to be talking about deception in an upcoming message, and we touched briefly on the activity of the demonic realm last Sunday. So I thought this was interesting as I encountered it in my reading. I want to share with you this quote and then draw upon another source to share with you two more additional thoughts in this video. I have something from the Bible, but it's more extensive. I'll have to make that an additional devotional video for this week. All right. God originally created Adam and his descendants to rule over the birds of the sky and the beasts of the field and the fish of the sea and over all the earth. Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. But Adam forfeited his position of authority when he sinned, and Satan became the rebel holder of authority, whom Jesus referred to as the ruler of this world. John chapter 12, verse 31. During Jesus' temptation, the devil offered him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory in exchange for worship. Satan claimed that the earth had been handed over to him, and he had the power to give it to whoever he wished. So he technically took the authority that was originally given to Adam because Adam abdicated dominion over God's creation when he fell into sin. And Satan has ruled ever since, from the time of sin all the way to the time of Christ. But what's so powerful, what's so cool here is Matthew 28:18 talks about how Christ resecured the authority for mankind that had been deceitfully stolen by Satan thousands of years before. And that authority extends to all believers in the Great Commission, that we may continue, as 1 John chapter 3, verse 8 says, continue to do the work of destroying the works of the devil. That was Jesus' mission, to destroy the works of the devil. And he is now partnered with us. He's in us, working through us to do the same thing. We were all born spiritually dead and subject to the ruler of this world, whom Paul has called the prince of the power of the air. Ephesians chapter 2, verse 2. But when we received Christ, God delivered us from the dominion of darkness and transferred us to the kingdom of his beloved Son. Colossians 1:13. Our citizenship has changed from earth to heaven. Satan is the ruler of this world temporarily, but he is no longer the ruler. He's no longer our ruler, for Christ is our Lord. And I love this because I'm a very strong supporter of the kingship, lordship of Christ when it comes to salvation. So we're either under Satan's lordship or Christ's lordship, Satan's rulership or Christ's rulership. We go from being born into this world of sin under Satan's authority, and by the grace of Christ can be purchased, can be brought out of the dominion of darkness into the dominion of the kingdom of the Son, and now we come under his authority, and we can exercise that authority in this world. But as long as we remain on planet Earth, we are still on Satan's turf. He will try to rule our lives by deceiving us, and I'm going to talk about deception this upcoming Sunday, deceiving us into believing we are still under his authority. Love this. Wonderful, wonderful passage. Brings up a lot of great scriptural truth, a lot to meditate on. So I wanted to share that with you today. Here's something else. This past Sunday, we talked about Sodom and Gomorrah, Genesis 18 and 19. We had mentioned Abraham's power as an intercessor to pray for others. And I had kind of brought this question up to all of you. Is it possible that a few righteous Christians, few righteous believers who were prayerfully co-laboring with God could influence a much larger population of people? You know, if Abraham, one person, was able to intercede on behalf of Sodom and get it down to, if there's just 10 righteous people in the city, I'll spare the city, God said. Could we as a small minority influence our towns, our cities, even our country for Christ, even though we're not the majority? If the minority got together in righteousness and in prayer, seems to, by that one passage, and there's others, but just by that one passage, the principle gives us encouragement and gives us hope that our prayer, our righteousness can have an impact, even though we are a minority. Now, here's what I came across this morning, and I wanted to share this. Revolutionary War. So, in the Revolutionary War, going upon some statistics here, just rough numbers, about 40% of the American population of the American colonies at the time of the Revolutionary War were neutral. They just wanted to get the conflict over with. They didn't want it to affect them too much. Kind of sounds like a number of people when it comes to voting, because there's a huge population. I think there's like 40%, 50%. 40% of the population does not vote. That's eligible to vote. Just get it done with, doesn't matter. There were about 20% of the population of the colonies that were loyalists and supported England, which left about 40% of the population to support American independence. However, of that 40%, only about a third of them fought in the war, and actually sacrificed physically to play a role. So a lot of people don't realize that when it came to the American Revolution, it says, as a country, we beat the British. But the reality is only about 15% of the American population was responsible for the victory. You could increase that to about 40%, but generally 15% really sacrificed their lives, sacrificed everything they had for the cause that they were committed to. And so I thought that was significant in light of yesterday's message, because 15% had an impact in the war, and that's a minority. So as believers, if we stand strong in our faith, if we walk in righteousness and character, and if we are praying people and we're proactive, we're intentional, we can influence this country for Christ. Now, let me read to you a quote. This is a quote taken from a rally of Donald Trump 2020 in Orlando. Just listen to this, because I'm looking at everything. I am not a Democrat or a Republican. I'm a Christian first, a conservative second, and then I vote for whatever candidate lines with those two principles. So just listen to this, because I really am encouraged by this speech, by this quote. This is part of his speech. We will never stop fighting for the values that hold us together as one America. We believe in the American Constitution and the rule of law. We believe in the dignity of work and the sanctity of life. We believe that faith and family, not government and bureaucracy, are the true American way. We believe that our children should be taught to love our country, honor our history, and always respect our great American flag. And we will live by the words of our national motto, "In God we trust." Powered by these values, we won a victory 2.5 years ago. We won a victory for American self-government, self-rule, and self-determination. We have been blessed by God with the greatest nation on the face of the earth, and we are going to keep it that way. So, My intention here in the coming weeks, we've got about 25 weeks before the election. A majority of Americans, 90%, do not have a biblical worldview. They don't look at what's going on in the world through the lens of the Bible. And even when it comes to professing Christians, only about 30% of them, only 1/3 of all who profess to be followers of Christ, actually have a lens, a biblical lens in which to view the world. So I want to spend some time in the next 25 weeks, probably on a very lengthy series, maybe 15 messages or more, looking at cultural issues through the lens of the Bible. What does the Bible have to say about, and then we're going to pick about a dozen or so topics that relate specifically to what's going on politically in the world today. Because it's not just political issues. They're biblical issues that have been politicized, and for some reason, Satan doesn't want pastors to talk about those issues. He wants to keep it separate because he doesn't want to interject biblical truth into government, which is an absolute lie, and it's a work of the enemy. So I'm excited to do that. Stay tuned. I forgot to turn off my phone, so I got a phone call in the midst of our video, but it's all good. Hey, bless you guys, and look forward to more devotional thoughts with you later this week.